What is good, everybody? It is your boy, Pat the Designer, back at it again, and we have a special guest on our show today, Chuck Swirsky, here to talk Chicago Bulls and a little bit about Chuck himself. All that and more in today's episode of the Windy City Breeze. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Pat the Designer, back at it again, and gotta introduce to the show Chuck Swirsky from Bulls Radio. I mean, the voice that you hear when you're on the go, one of the founding voices of the Chicago Bulls team, the go-to. Chuck, how are you feeling today?
Pat, it is good to see you. It's good to hear you. I love your passion. Pat, I love your enthusiasm. I love your mojo. So here we are.
Chuck, you don't even know, man. Like, you're a big part of this. When I was growing up and always listening to the Bulls on the go, and when I started working, I worked second shift. So the only time I was going to be able to see or hear the Bulls was you. So a lot of the live calls and things I do, right, learning how to paint a picture, I got that from you, because I was like, maybe I have a good imagination, but I feel like I'm watching the game right now. So it's always good to talk to you. And
thank you.
You played a big part in what I am.
With the rock, couple of jab steps, works on Curry, step back three, bam, count it, and a foul.
That's it right there, man.
At the line for a possible 4-point play. Of course, with Steph, let me tell you what, the way Steph Curry, like he has revolutionized the game. We talk about certain players like the era of Bill Russell, where he made like defense a priority.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Kareem Abdul-Jabbar with the sky hook.
Yeah.
Oscar Robertson, he was the king of the triple-double before Westbrook. And then Jordan comes around. And, you got Bird and Magic. And then all of a sudden, like you got LeBron, who's like just a freak of nature.
Yeah.
Because this guy is like, just getting it done year after year. He had 39 the other day. I mean, so now we got Steph Curry, who's coming over the 8-second line, taking one dribble, and like for 99.9% of players, like taking a 45-footer, you're probably saying, what do you do? Okay, Steph, like, that's cool. That's good.
Yeah. No, that is, and I think that kind of like speaks to, of course, talking about the Bulls here. We've seen, of course, an up and down season. Playing Stephen Curry the other night, he's been just phenomenal, like you brought out. But I think, right, you've seen a lot of changes throughout this NBA. What we're seeing with this Bulls team, it seems like they're competing every night. Do you feel like it's more of the Bulls aren't playing up to the level that we're expecting them to? Or is it also something to be said about, I look around this NBA, I don't see a team that doesn't have talent anymore. You used to have teams where you would look, and not to say they weren't talented, but you could tell, like, listen, you're never going to be able to compete with this team. But we see OKC every night competing.
Well, here's the issue. I think the biggest issue is player availability.
Yes.
Pat, I mean, like we're going into city to city to city as they're coming in to play the Bulls. No Lonzo Ball.
Yeah.
Well, when's Lonzo coming back? I have no idea. And I'm telling you the truth. I do not have an idea.
Yeah.
Are they optimistic and hopeful that he's going to come back? Obviously, yes. But I mean, we're going into these different places like Golden State's an exception because they're healthy. They're waiting on Iguodala to get in shape. And then they're waiting for mid-April for Iguodala for the playoffs. You know that, and I know that.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, we're going to every city now, and like I caught a little bit of Sacramento's game with the Clippers. Well, Kawhi Leonard didn't play. Paul George is not playing.
Yeah.
And you say to yourself, like, what's up with that? Like, they're hurt. And then, you go to Utah, no Mike Conley. And you say to yourself, wow, okay, no Mike Conley. And then, like, so you've got to have players.
Yeah.
You've got to have your core players on the floor. And so this whole NBA thing, Pat, I'm trying to figure out like the best team in the West.
Yeah.
Is it Phoenix? Is it Denver? Is it Memphis? Is it Golden State? Is Golden State going to put something together in a package deal to pick up a player that's out there? Because like I just don't know. But you're right. Like there are no like okay, I get it. Orlando, they've got like 5 guys out.
Yeah.
So that would be Orlando, maybe Detroit, maybe you're looking at
Charlotte,
Houston,
possibly.
Charlotte. But I'll tell you what, I mean Houston, they've got some kids who can flat out hoop.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you see what Jalen Green's doing?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's the biggest difference in the league right now, right? Like, I mean, you think back to even just like 2012, you could see like where there was the Bulls, there was the Cavs, there was Miami. There was a clear difference.
Yes.
In the teams that were good to the bottom of the barrel, where right now, right, the Bulls are 9-13. We're sitting a little bit out of the playoffs, but we're nowhere near like completely out of this thing at all. 2 wins, 3 wins in a row, you're right back in the playoff picture. That's how close this NBA is. And so it's so interesting to me. I think we're seeing the most nuanced league that we've seen to this point. I do want to ask this though, right? Because we have to, at a minimum, right, there's the nuance, but we also have to look at what is happening on the court. And from my vantage point, what I'm seeing night in and night out, AK wanted to bet on continuity, and his bet on continuity seems like it should work because based on my set, Pat Will's playing better, Io's playing better, Javonte Green has improved his game, DJJ's giving you save production, Dragic is as advertised, Drummond is as advertised, but then I look at our stars and I say, a lot of up and down nights. The continuity was bet on you guys. What are you seeing from kind of the up and down start that the starters have put on display at our 9-13 right now?
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. I'm going to give you a cliche, and Pat, you've heard this cliche as well as your viewers and listeners.
Yeah.
It's a make or miss league.
Yeah.
And you look at Zach's 3-point shooting in the month of November, tailed off.
Yeah.
Okay. The thing is, Zach is such a talented player. He's an athletic, skilled player. And I made this notation on the air the other day. I want to see him raise his free throw attempts per game.
Yeah.
Right now it's 5, Pat. He should be at DeMar DeRozan's level at 8 per game.
Yeah.
He should be going to the rack, getting fouled, and going to the line for some easy points at the stripe.
Yeah.
If you look at DeMar's mid-range game, where is he usually fouled, Pat? He's fouled around the elbow or at the foul line, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So with Zach, because he has that first burst step going to the rim, he would pick up fouls.
Yeah.
So when your 3-point shot isn't falling, you got to get somehow, you got to generate production. Vooch to me is a guy that, and I realize he loves that top side 3-ball attempt. I want to see him in the post because there are not many big men in the league that have his footwork, that he does those little curls where he's on the block and he finishes in the semicircle with that little baby right-handed hook or the flip with the left.
Yeah.
So, I mean, your 3 players have got to lead the way.
Yeah. And
so you just gave a beautiful assessment, Pat, of some of the other players on this team. Dragic has been everything as advertised. He shows up. He's a smart player.
Yeah.
He gives you 17 minutes of Goran Dragic. Drummond, sometimes with matchups, you can play him. Sometimes in small ball, you can't.
Mm-hmm.
But when he's on the floor, he's a vacuum. He grabs rebounds. And I can live with that because that's his thing. He is a rebounding machine.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love it when they throw lobs to the rim for Drummond to dunk.
You forget he's like 29 and still really athletic sometimes because of how long he's been in the league. And then you're like, oh, yeah, he jumps really high, doesn't he?
And at times he doesn't even have to jump. He just, the lob to the rim and he throws it down.
Yeah.
So, the schedule, I hate to say this because it sounds like so many excuses. The schedule and it's been documented. It's been the toughest in basketball in the NBA.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that once they get back and they start getting in a rhythm, and this is the longest road trip of the season, but there are no gimmies in the league. And so this schedule, you got a home with Dallas, at Atlanta back to back coming up. And then they're playing like the next 3 times in like 8 or 9 days.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
They're playing the same team 3 times in a week and a half.
The schedule's so interesting this year. Like, even just right, like I guess from a fan aspect, like I love watching, like being able to look throughout the season and be like, okay, we got Boston. Next time we got Boston. We played Boston 3 times already. We got one more shot at them.
Yep.
That's so weird to me.
It's building availability. It's teams for national TV. See, we haven't hit, when I say we, the Bulls.
Mm-hmm.
You know what, Pat? We haven't reached that point where we are on the A list for network nationally televised games.
Yeah.
We're almost like if it was a courtship where you're kind of flirting a little bit on a
We're
date.
just showing some leg right now. Is that what we're doing?
Well, yeah, and you're saying, okay, are you the one, or we're still trying to figure things out where to navigate this relationship.
Yeah.
Well, with the Bulls, I mean, do I think the networks want the Bulls to do well? Absolutely. Big market. We've got all-stars on the team.
Yeah.
And you got the Bulls brand, okay? Like your brand, Pat.
Yeah.
You got a brand.
No, doing a little something.
So now I'll say this: I think the Bulls need to play better when they're on national TV, because that would help.
Yeah, a little bit.
But I do think that the networks take care of winning teams by putting them in a position where they have rest and they're getting ready for a game. I mean, how often do you see Golden State on national TV in the second game of a back-to-back?
Well, you didn't see it here. We knew that. That was the thing when we looked at the schedule. I was like, let's see, maybe, because we got 1 day rest, right? Like, what's Golden State got? It was like, they got 2 days off. This going to be a fight. This is going to be a dogfight. I mean, here, looking at those games, right? Like, we saw the Phoenix game. Of course, you're calling them, right? Calling the Golden State game. There was something that stood out to me in both games. The Bulls, if you look at right throughout the game, of course, there's ups and downs, but they didn't get dominated for 48 minutes. I know that the end score of the Phoenix game would make us feel that way, but they didn't get dominated. They actually competed. And I think the one thing that we've seen, and Billy Donovan said it, talking about the Bulls being consistently inconsistent. Quarter 1, 33-30. We're right there with them. We're scoring with one of the best teams. But then the Bulls continue to have these 3-4 minute scoring droughts.
Yeah.
What is the fix for that, right? We saw Billy Donovan kind of tinkering with the lineup. What is the fix for that?
I think we saw some of that against Golden State.
Yeah.
And I think if you saw Williams and Dosunmu come off the bench, and they immediately contributed in the second quarter.
Yeah.
So that's a good sign. Now, do I think he's going to stay with this lineup? I think probably, maybe for the time being.
Yeah.
He may. I look at the Bulls half-court sets, and without Lonzo, it's been really hard to get into your set early.
Yeah.
And with Lonzo, they were able to get some easy transition hoops because of Lonzo's vision.
Yes.
I mean, like, he was having a career season a year ago, shooting the 3 rock, and, he can play big guards, and all that is well and good. And I love it. But his vision to throw a 65-foot pass
on a dime,
I mean, where the player can do something with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Where it's almost like a quarterback and a wide receiver.
Yeah.
The quarterback needs to hit the receiver. So, a run after the catch where he can do something with it instead of trying to bring the ball back over his shoulder and then center the ball, in a series of seconds and then take off and running. Well, the same thing. How often do you see where a pass is near the ankles of a player, and by all of a sudden they have to lift the ball up and then rise up for a potential shot? Well, even in a second and a half or 2 seconds, it gives enough time for that wing defender to come over and shade,
Yes.
instead of receiving the pass right in a pass and catch situation where there's no hesitation, boom, pat, boom, and it's going up. And last night, I'm watching Golden State, okay?
That's the hard part. When you see the mirror of what we want.
Oh, my gosh. I'm looking at this team where the ball does not stick to their hands.
Yeah.
They've got the ball, and, I mean, they're passing, boom, 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 boom. And you're like, I'm looking at Steph Curry, and then whether, it goes side to side, and then they just wear you out.
Yeah.
If your cardio level if that's the beautiful thing about Steph Curry. I mean, this guy is in shape.
Yeah.
I mean, he is running around constantly, and there's a method to this. It's just not some guy, running left, running right, running around. I mean, he's doing this because you're locked in on Curry, and then all of a sudden, all it takes is a second defender to look at Curry, and you find, how often last night did they do backdoor cuts on the end line?
Oh my God! Draymond Green was a wizard at finding them, and that's the part, right? I think that probably irks most Bulls fans. I know it sticks in my craw. Is when I watch this team offensively, right? It reminds me of a 2005 offense. Not to say that, right, like it's just because of the mid-range game, but there's just not a ton of movement. You're kind of just watching your stars go to work. You're letting it. Zach LaVine saying, "Okay, it's your turn. Okay, it's my turn." And the interesting thing is that, to me, they play. It seems like, at least this season, Zach and DeMar have had their best moments on the court when neither of them's on, or when there's only one of them on the court, I should say, because they're able to say, okay, it's not your turn, my turn. It's just my turn. I can just do what I do, and I can get everybody else involved doing that.
Well, and you know what? They got to figure this out, because I think you're right, from the standpoint that I think it alleviates and takes away not only the X's and O's option, but mentally, where you say, because there's no question Zach and DeMar are close.
Yeah.
Okay. They're close as human beings. Forget about hoops. I'm just talking people to people.
Yeah, they're friends for sure. Brotherhood.
Yes. And it carries over to the floor. I mean, Zach has the utmost respect for DeMar's game. DeMar has the utmost respect for Zach. There is no friction whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get two stars together, and you got to figure it out. And then you got Vooch, and you got to figure it out.
Yeah.
And, I'm hoping that it comes where there's a perfect storm, because the truth of the matter is, Pat, those three players have got to lead the Bulls.
I hope so. Yes.
Really. They've got to get it done.
Yeah.
As much as I love Patrick Williams, he is not on their level. Patrick Williams is a 21-year-old young man trying to still figure things out, where Vooch is a two-time All-Star, and DeMar has been there 5 times, and Zach's an All-Star. So, they got to, at the end of the day, a coach, his responsibility is to put the players in a position to succeed.
Yes.
And I get that. But it also comes down where you have to hold players accountable.
Do you think that we're getting enough of that from Billy Donovan? Do you think that we saw the benching of Zach LaVine when Billy felt like, right, sitting him down gave us a better chance to win. We saw DeMar sit for long stretches at the end of that game until pretty much the final moments where the Bulls had fought and all the way back. What is it? Because I've said on my show many a times, you guys can't think that Billy Donovan's going into this huddle and he's just like, yeah, leave that corner 3 open. Just keep doing that. That's working out great. Nope, don't move the ball at all, right? Just keep doing. Billy's trying. It seems like he's trying to implement a system, But is it on Billy to, okay, hey, I've got to tighten the reins a little bit, you got to run this system, or is it on the players to just fully buy into this system, or have they fully bought into this system?
Well, here's my take. I think when you have a prolific scorer like DeMar DeRozan, and you have the best three-point shooter on the club in Levine, and the best post player in Vucevic, you've got options. Now, what we've seen a lot is after timeout plays, the ball goes to DeRozan. And the reason for that is that DeMar can get his shot off, or he's going to get fouled. Now, I'll tell you what I've been seeing lately on this trip. And he did go to the foul line. He went 8 of 9 from the line the other night.
Yes.
And so, but what I'm starting to see is teams are really, really locked in on not going for the second pump fake. And DeMar has a lot of success drawing fouls on the head and shoulder fake, especially against young players who may not see DeMar a lot, and maybe they're seeing him for the first, second, third, fourth time in their career, and they want to block every shot, and they're anxious to play him, and all of a sudden they get caught up in this where, like, to me, Dwayne Wade, Paul Pierce had, and Kyle Lowry have outstanding where the head and shoulder fake, where they're taking the ball around their, the upper chest, and they're rising up, double pump with the head bobbing, and DeMar's got that down. And so, usually he gets fouled on a double pump where he gets on the fade a little bit. And players just want to block every shot. They think that after that second head and shoulder fake, they got all the ball. And what they do is they hit the elbow or the forearm. So, I think that we're going to learn a lot about this team. I always say, give me 41 games, give me half the season, and I can tell you, if you invite me back, game number 41, I think we'll get a really good indication where this team is. And hopefully by sometime, I would think maybe January, we'll find out about Lonzo.
Yeah, that's an interesting situation. Like you said, he was I feel like this team was built to be that almost fire starter type offense, right? Where, you got that point guard that grabs the ball off of the rim, flicks his wrist, it lands in your hands. You're not allowing teams to get into defensive sets. I feel like when we allow teams to kind of set their defenses up and really get going against us, that's kind of where we become a stagnant offense. And unfortunately, right, the numbers are playing out to that. We're 23rd in offensive rating in the NBA right now. Defense, still a top 15 defense, slowly working our way down the list, but hopefully able to get that back together. It's been an up and down season. That's all you can say about it. And
we'll also on this trip, if you look at the numbers, 3-point shooting. I mean, our 3-point shooting is not very good, and
even our attempts, we don't even attempt a ton.
And teams are shooting 38% on the road trip against the Bulls. And, sometimes it's rotations. Sometimes players are just on fire, even with a hand in the face. I mean, some of those, like Devin Booker threes, were contested. He had it going.
Even Poole last night.
Jordan Poole was phenomenal. And, that's why these are the greatest players in the world. I mean, if I understand, when I sit down and you talk to Goran Dragic, and he said, this is what every dream of a little boy is outside of North America or in Canada, is to play in the NBA because the competition is the best in the world. Okay. Every night. I mean, and so, I'm hoping that, the Bulls figure it out because I do think they've got talent. I think they're a little bit thin in certain areas, but for the most part, you've got 3 all-stars on your team. And, I just wish that Lonzo was healthy, because I really believe that was not a fluke a year ago when they were the number 1 seed in the East.
Yeah. It's interesting too. I mean, like where we're sitting at right now, 12th in the East. What do you think this team is going to be? Right? Is it as simple as if Zach LaVine start knocking down shots?
I don't know, Pat.
Yeah.
I mean, the truth of the matter is, I keep trying to determine where this team is with an identity.
Let me ask you this. Are we closer to the team that can compete with Milwaukee and Boston, or are we closer to the team you think that we've seen kind of going up against Golden State, where you're here, but you're not here yet?
Well, no. Well, I mean, listen, I think Boston is right now. I want to see what Middleton is back now.
Yeah, for Milwaukee.
Yeah, and I want to see. I still think Milwaukee is going to be a tough out in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I think Boston, because Milwaukee takes a lot of threes, but Boston's whole offensive scheme is like outside in, inside, then throw it to the wing for a 3. I mean, they've got 2 elite players in Tatum and Brown. I still think Milwaukee could be a better team than Boston in a 7-game series. Having said that, I don't think Boston matches up with the Bulls very well, period.
Yeah.
There's something about the personnel and, and again, we haven't seen Robert Williams with Boston yet, and that's going to be a huge add-on. Had Gallinari not gone down with a knee injury, I mean, clearly, if Gallinari had been healthy this year and Robert Williams, and the jury's still out when he comes back to see how that knee is.
Yeah.
But on paper, and you can't play games on paper, Boston has the best personnel in the league, in the East, and maybe the league.
Yeah.
But I think the Celtics, the way they're constructed right now, I don't think they match up very well with the Bulls. And, the Bulls own 2 wins against them. And the 3rd game was tough in Boston. And so I just want to see where this team is at in mid-April. A lot depends, Pat, on the health of the Bulls, and for that matter, any other team.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go back 3 years. If Kevin Durant is not hurt, they probably beat the Raptors in that series.
Yes. Hey, both times, right? In both series, if Kevin Durant or if Kyrie Irving isn't hurt over on the Brooklyn side in that situation, you probably beat Milwaukee that first year,
And I'll tell you another thing. And again, if they won it, good for them. But in the bubble, you had the Lakers in Miami. And Miami was a very young team at the time. You put Miami on the road in Boston or Philly or, Toronto.
Yeah.
You think those kids on the Miami team are going to react the way they did in the bubble? No.
Probably not. Completely different situation. Yeah.
It was very homogenized.
Yeah.
I mean, you find out a lot about a player on the road in a playoff game. You find out real quickly what type of onions they have.
Oh yeah.
And so, I mean, the Lakers won it. I don't know if they win it if they're playing playoff games on the road.
Yeah. That was such an interesting situation because I said, there's literally a play where it summed up the bubble to me completely. I don't remember who the rookie was on the other side. I think it was for Miami. They were playing Milwaukee, but Giannis comes down, rises up, does one of those patented Giannis jams on him. Rookie's underneath it, and he gets bumped out of there. And this was supposed to be a Milwaukee home game. I'm like, man, if we're in Milwaukee right now, the building comes down. But then the rookie goes down the other end, stops, looks, pulls up a 3, knocks it down. I was like, that would not happen. He would not have recovered that quickly.
Yeah, absolutely, because you know what that rookie would be thinking on his way down the floor?
I'm going to be on ESPN tonight.
Yeah, exactly. He'd say, this is going to be on Twitter within 11 seconds.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just got embarrassed, and my mama is not going to let me have,
I
the
wish I
meal
could
at the
remember who
table.
it was. I don't even know if it, but I remember seeing that and I was like, that's the bubble. That's
Yeah.
what this is. So it was an interesting time, man. I think now, right, even seeing how teams who were dominant in the bubble have readjusted kind of back to how the league coming back, full stands and stuff. There's a lot of teams you look at and you're like, yeah, that's not the same team that we saw in the bubble. And there's other teams that have propelled them. That Phoenix team hasn't stopped winning since they left the
No.
bubble. So
What would they win, like 8 straight in the bubble or something?
8 straight, 9 straight.
And you know what? They picked up where they left off.
Yeah, adding Chris Paul helps with that a lot too.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Chuck, we appreciate you for tuning in.
Hey,
We've gotta talk about this book though, Chuck, because this is the thing about this. It's about you. It's the life of Chuck Swirsky. Tell us a little bit about this book. We've got it up on the screen here so everybody can see it as well.
So it really, I mean, I tell a lot of sports stories, including calling the Kobe 81 game, which to me still is the highlight of my broadcast career. And I love Kobe.
Yeah.
And got to know him through Rob Pelinka, the GM of the Lakers, who was Kobe's agent at the time. And Rob was my former broadcast partner when I was doing the play-by-play for the University of Michigan. But I mean, to me, this, tragically, number one, because of Kobe's death, he left his wife and the girls.
Yeah.
And to me, that supersedes anything about basketball. Basketball, that's so distant, not even worth the conversation when someone passes away. It's always about the family and your loved ones. But with Kobe, he was so intelligent and so competitive, and he had such a spirit about him. And again, we're talking, I don't want to put Kobe on a level way. I mean, we're all flawed. And Kobe would be the first to say, I'm a flawed man as well.
Yeah.
But Kobe had such an unbelievable second chapter in his life that was in front of him.
Yes.
I mean, the fact he had won, an Academy Award.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the short film on the joy of basketball, let me tell you what, it's not like he used his name and he wasn't involved. He was involved in this project from day one. It's not like he said, hey, you take care of it, you can put my name on it, and then all of a sudden, the envelope, please, and you get an Oscar. He was there.
Yeah.
He was there with his, sleeves rolled up and said, let's do something. So, but the book is about 4 P's. I'd like to say a fifth for Pat, but the 4 P's were passion, purpose, positivity, and the fourth thing that I always remind myself, even to this day, is perseverance. Because let me tell you what, in the sports media field or in any type of competitive, foundational workplace, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
And it should be tough, because if you want to climb that mountain and get on the ladder and stay on the ladder, you've got to be sure that when you get knocked down, that you have the heart to get back up.
Yeah.
And that's what this book is all about. How badly do you want it? Because, like, I failed many, many times. And but I never wanted to take my ball and go home.
Yeah.
You know what? I mean, hey, you want to come at me like a freight train like LeBron James and roll me over, and I'm taking like blocking fouls, charges, everything.
Yeah.
You still got to get back up and you say, you know what, tomorrow's another day. And that's why, I think of guys like Willie Mays, who didn't get a hit for like 3 weeks when he first came into the big leagues.
Yeah.
And he was so down. And his manager, Leo DeRocher, said, Willie, you know what? You're going to be fine. You know what? Just let this play out. Don't lose confidence, because you're not going to get sent down. I think the world of you. We're going to let you play through this, because this isn't going to be the only time in your life you're going to go 0 for 22. So you just deal with it. And look at the player Willie Mays became. I mean, it's Ryan Sandberg, when he first joined the Cubs, couldn't buy a hit.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens in life. You know, Pat, you're going to have some weeks where you doubt yourself about this show. You know, golly, you know, I wish I screwed up. I wish I could have done a better job interviewing this guy or putting something together.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what? But Pat, you know what? You just say, hey, you know what? The next guy I get on, or the next sports personality, you know, whether she plays for the Sky or the guy plays for the Sox or Cubs, you just say to yourself, hey, you know what? I'm going to do a better job.
Yeah.
And I've learned from those things. And that's what the book is about. So they can get the book, Chuck Swirsky, thebook.com, Chuck Swirsky, thebook.com. And a portion of the proceeds go to Chicago Bulls charities to help children and families in need. And I wanted to do this. I didn't write the book for money, and nor is anything even remotely close to that.
Yeah.
I wanted to write the book to really encourage and engage and inspire people so that they feel that they are a part of something in their life that they can kind of relate to through the ups and downs of human existence, so to speak.
Yeah.
And when they buy the book, I want them to know that, you know, a portion of the proceeds are going to give something back to our city, because there are a lot of kids and a lot of families that need assistance.
Yeah.
And the Bulls are very, very involved with a lot of charities in Chicago. And I love our city very much, and I want to make sure that these families and these kids are taken care of.
Yeah, it's interesting hearing you talk, you know, about just the journey and things like that, and I'm absolutely getting my copy on order, because I love hearing about the journey that people go through to get to the place that they are right now, right? A lot of times we see the end, you know, by the time I started listening to you, you were the voice of the Bulls. You were the only voice that I knew. You were on 670, ESPN 1000. You were everywhere. You were the voice that was yelling when Derrick Rose was knocking down game-winning. You know what I mean? Like that, I got to see the end of it. But my dad, when I told him you were coming on, he's like, oh yeah, I remember being in Ohio and listening, and Chuck Swirsky was the producer for the radio show down there, and I met him at a radio station up here, and just seeing, right, like the journey and the growth. What was that moment for you where you were like, you know what, I've gotten knocked down, but I realized that this is my gift. There's nothing that I'm gonna let take it away from me.
Well, probably, yeah. So I graduated early from college because I wanted to get a jump start. And I sent out resumes, tapes, everything. No. And was I discouraged? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
human emotion.
I mean, like, you know, but my mom would always tell me rejection is a direction. And so you got to start, like, never give up.
Okay. I like that.
I loved, my father died when I was a kid. And I talked about that in the book, how it really threw me for a major loop at that stage in my life in the 6th grade. But my mom was, without question, the most influential individual in my life, because after my dad died, my mom was a elementary school teacher. Mm-hmm. And when my dad died, elementary school teachers, especially Catholic elementary school teachers, aren't making a lot of money there, Pat.
Yeah.
She took on 2 other jobs. So she had not 1, Pat, not 2, Pat, 3 jobs. 3. And she would come home from school at 4:00. She would change, and she'd go to the hospital and work in the gift shop. On weekends, she would work in the hospital, and then she worked at a theater company just outside of Seattle, where she would either perform or behind the scenes. But they were 3 jobs to put food on the table for 3 kids. Okay. And I'm watching this. She never complained once. And she had every right to, but she never complained once. So when I was getting rejected or not hearing back from people, resumes, tapes, nothing, and I was getting internships, and I hear the same line, kid, you're going to be great. You got the enthusiasm, you got the skill. Well, I'd love a job. Well, we don't have any jobs right now, and I wish we did. And so I'm thinking, wow, where am I going in my life? What's going on? And I got a break, and it was at a station in Columbus, Ohio. And they gave me the keys to the car to do a talk show. And that's all I asked. Because if I screw up and I can't do it, that's on me.
Yeah.
But I just want one opportunity. Just give me one opportunity and let me just take off.
Yeah.
And I got that opportunity, and I vowed, you know what, from this moment on, the arrow is pointing north. And it happened.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, what happens is you get in a situation where somebody hears you, they like you, they call you up, they say, come in for an interview. And then one thing led to the next, that led to the next, that led to the next. But that's why I tell young people, your first job is your most important job. And they said, well, my first job's in Fargo, North Dakota. Then make Fargo, North Dakota be your Chicago.
Yeah.
Make Fargo, North Dakota the most important job, not thinking about the job in 6 months or a year and a half, because you want to polish your skills, improve your weaknesses, and work on them, because that's going to set you up for your second job. But you can't get a second job without excelling in your first job.
100%. Love to hear it, Chuck. Hey, listen, if you ever need a night off, by the way, I'm available.
Yeah,
No, I kid.
That's right. Good.
Chuck Swirsky, the book is out right now. Go grab your copy today. Always a pleasure. On chuckswirskythebook.com. Just type that in on the website and you will be able to buy your own personal copy. And like Chuck said, the portion of the proceeds do go back into charities and different things around the city. Chuck, appreciate you for coming on the show.
Thank you, man.
I love having you. I love your basketball insight as always. Hopefully our Bulls win a little bit more and we have a little bit more fun the rest of this season, but it's always fun. It's still basketball. Basketball.
Yeah, it's still basketball. It's all good. Thanks, my man.
As always, man, it's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. Appreciate you all for tuning in and watching the show. We'll be back live tomorrow for another episode of The Daily Show. You guys stay safe out there, Chicago. Peace.